Man, happy new year, everybody. Let's talk about Jeffrey Epstein today on Speechless. Okay, everybody. So thank you guys so much for tuning in live in my home studio. Happy New Year. I hope you all had a very Merry Christmas. We are back here with Speechless. And this is your first time. I'm your host, Phares, 23, officially 23-year-old college graduate, still working at a radio station, new radio station now, still hosting a radio show, going to be on a few other stations now after the new year. But so many things in the works, and we'll definitely get to some life updates here today. But you guys might have noticed there's some breaking news, literally breaking as we are speaking. The Epstein associate list, that I thought we'd never have, has dropped officially. People are combing through Twitter right now. It's going all over. And definitely let me know in the comments too, as I am in my home studio now. I want to make sure that the audio is clear. I know the video will be as best as I possibly can get it. It's an internet thing, and I'm also using the green screen and everything. So I want to make sure it's as good as possible for you guys. So let me know in the comments what you guys think on all that stuff. Don't forget to like this video and all the videos you watch of mine. I'd appreciate it. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, share it with your friends, all that fun stuff. But let's go through a little bit about this. So before we get to some of the things that I'm seeing in the Epstein document that was just released, this is out of the Daily Wire earlier today. The federal court documents containing the names of people who were associated with the late convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein were set to be unsealed today and have been unsealed today in New York, with a few key exceptions. This is important, everybody. According to a report published that same day that they announced that it was going to be released, Judge Loretta Preska ordered the unsealing in December, but granted a 30-day extension to at least two individuals named in the filing, some who were underage at the time that Epstein abused them, and one of whom is a woman who has thus far only been identified as Doe 107. There's been a lot of speculation as to who that might be. Doe 107, according to the network, has claimed that she would be at risk of physical harm in her home country if her identity were ever to be revealed. And the judge has not yet finished reviewing her claim. The documents in question were filed by Virginia Giroux, one of Epstein's victims, pursuant to her lawsuit against the disgraced financier's convicted accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, whose sentence included 2 decades behind bars and a $750,000 fine, and are expected to name some more than 150 who were linked in some way to Epstein. Also, before I go through all of this, Josh Bender makes a great point. I would not ever kill myself, ever, for any reason. I am by no means suicidal now, nor will I be in the future. Period. So anything I talk about here is simply public record that I'm sharing for the fortune of knowledge that anybody who watches this video wishes to receive. So let's talk a little bit about what we are beginning to find. I also have some friends in a group chat, which includes Josh, that are combing through some of these, looking through what they see on Twitter, everything like that. Some names that pop out a lot, which were also rumored to start out with Bill Clinton. Oh, Bill. Well, if you didn't already know, Bill Clinton likes underage girls. If, in fact, let me see if I can find the exact screenshot here. Yes. Oh, it's like the first thing that pops up on my Twitter. Let's bring it on screen here for everybody. Share screen. Yes. So this is a screenshot from the 2,000 plus page Epstein documents. Let's pull this right here. So if you want to look at this, okay, so this is during a questioning regarding Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Clinton. Did Jeffrey ever talk to you about Bill Clinton? He said one time that Clinton likes them young, referring to girls. And now we know when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, Jeff liked them really, really young. Some as young as 12, if not younger. Bill Clinton, however, we already knew liked them as young as around 19, as Miss Lewinsky, who he claims he did, or he claimed at one point he did not have sexual relations with, was that young, while also being married to Hillary Clinton. So we are well aware, and that's not the only time Bill Clinton comes up in this. In a word search that I did of the document that I received, that's over 2,000 pages long, there was upwards of 50 times Clinton's name was mentioned, whether that was in reference to either just Bill or Hillary as well, as Hillary also had visited some of the homes and lifestyle of Jeffrey Epstein. We can also look into some other names that are mentioned here. Alan Dershowitz, the now kind of almost disgraced attorney who has gone on record multiple times saying that he had no affiliation with any of the Epstein sexual experiences that have been outlined in numerous documentaries as well as court cases. Alan Dershowitz is named quite a few times. And while it's not clear as to whether or not he committed sex acts with underage women, this is not a person that you would want to necessarily have your name associated with. Along with that, we also have Prince Andrew, who many already knew was brought up multiple times. One that might surprise many of you that I did not know is the very, very famous wheelchair-bound, now since deceased individual, Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking, who was the Siri-voiced person before Siri existed. Yes, Stephen Hawking is listed in this. Al Gore, former presidential candidate, former vice president, and denier of inconvenient truths. That would be Al Gore. And plenty of others right now. Like I said, many are coming through as these simply actually came out less than an hour ago, really, or just about an hour ago is when these documents were released. So if I'm going to keep combing through Twitter a little bit here before we get into the main parts of the show, I also want to be clear as well. While many were, especially on the left, were enamored with the idea that Donald Trump would be mentioned in these documents, he is. However, on multiple occasions, it does say it kind of clears Trump of any wrongdoing. At one point, one girl was asked about Donald Trump, and she said that he was never known to take part in any sex acts with any girls or anything like that. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean he is not a victim or he's not a person who knew about Jeffrey. He claims he was not, or knew about Jeffrey's actions. He claims he was not. And these documents would only, as far as everything I've seen, push that further. But that will not stop the left from cherry picking quotes and making out of context assumptions about things like that. So let's see what we got going on in the comments here. I also want to know what you guys are seeing as well. And I will make sure to cover as much as I can as it begins to come through. Again, a lot of this is breaking as we are speaking. Because it only dropped about an hour ago. But we have Ryan Mack of the Ryan Mack Show. Happy New Year, sir. I just want to say I'm not suicidal at all, but can't wait to see who's on that list. Exactly. Hillary, if you're out there and you somehow get a hold of this, just know it was probably you. Let's see, Progressive American. Yes, I am in the same area now. You heard about Hawking, sick F. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what he did yet. I'm going to go and try to find some of the quotes through it. It's a very, very long document, and I would have liked more time to read through it. I was waiting for it all day. As we know, it was reported that this was going to come out. And it didn't come out until about 6 o'clock, 6:15 today, Central Standard Time. And this is out of New York, too, meaning that they're on Eastern Time an hour ahead of me, and thus should have had it out by end of day. But let's see who else might be mentioned and what is trending on Twitter right now, because that seems to be the main source of information that you can get for anything. I've got a little drink in my hand too, guys. I hope you guys have a good one, because this is just only going to get darker. I'm sure of that. This is probably one of the funniest comments I will ever receive on any live stream I'll ever have. I'll just let you guys read it for yourself. Let's see what else is going on in the Twitterverse. I hope that you guys that everything is going okay in here. and that you guys can understand me and that the content is clear as possible. I hope it's not lagging too much. Let me know in the comments if there is any lag. Please tell me. I'd like to know so I can keep trying to make this better. Um, oh, okay. This is very interesting. Being somebody who is from Illinois, uh, being somebody who is from Illinois, a Pritzker. So currently, the governor of Illinois is J.B. Pritzker, uh, one of the heirs to the Pritzker fortune. The Pritzkers made their name notably as they are all affiliated with the Hyatt Hotels brand. Uh, Tom Pritzker is named specifically in these documents. In a line of questioning, it asks, "How many times have you had sex with Tom Pritzker? Do you know what that question means?" I believe so. All right. What is the answer to that question? I believe I was with Tom once. It is not clear, based on the screenshot that I received, whether or not this person is of age or underage. However, knowing that Jeffrey Epstein was known to basically prostitute out women, it's not good to have a Pritzker on in there. This is the thing, everybody, and this is the with all of this. And we knew this kind of when the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing came out, but knowing some of the names only proves this a little bit further. Is the fact that anything ever called a conspiracy theory, look, I'll never forget, prior to the Jeffrey Epstein full-blown release of all of this, before his court case, before his arrest, everything like that, Jeffrey Epstein was rumored often. Oh, it looks like my green screen is starting to fall, so I'm going to fix that real quick. But you guys can't see it as much as I can. Quite funny. Give me one moment. All fixed. Sorry about that, everybody. That seems to be what happens when you have a live show that you produce entirely on your own and a fun little green screen that also likes to have a mind of its own. But back to what I was talking about. When it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, many conspiracy theorists, or I hate to say that word because it has a negative connotation, but many people prior to Jeffrey's arrest, prior to the insane public knowledge that is now known about Jeffrey Epstein, would say these things that were absolutely crazy or sounded absolutely crazy. Like there's a underground pedophile ring of all these top elites, people people like Bill Gates and Bill Clinton, Al Gore and Stephen flippin' Hawking. And everybody would brush these people off like, you're crazy. You're crazy. You're crazy. There's no chance. You're a wild conspiracy theorist. And now what do we see? Well, what we see is that maybe those people aren't necessarily right when they claim that doomsday is December 22nd, 2012, but they were right in this instance, which makes me a reasonable skeptic. It makes me a reasonable skeptic. It seems as though nothing is out of the realm of possibility. When you have everybody telling you, the media, your institutions, your officials, telling you, you're crazy. There's no such thing as an elite pedophile ring. You're insane. Now, when I hear anything that sounds as crazy as that, I'm inclined to at least, if not believe it, at least take it for what it is. And it's not some wild conspiracy theory. Maybe there's actually some truth to it. So that's where I'm at with that. I want to keep going though, looking to see if there's anything else. Oh, I'm getting another one in here. Michael Jackson, famed pop star, who has also had some wild accusations against him. If you want to know what any of those are, I'm not going to get into them. However, go watch Return to Neverland. That can give you a good idea. In some quotes from the document, did you ever meet anybody famous when you were with Jeffrey? I met Michael Jackson. Oh, really? And where was that? At his house in Palm Beach, at Jeffrey's house in Palm Beach. Michael Jackson is now implicated in this. I'm interested to see how his estate will respond. I'm going to keep going. So those were just some, and I see that I have some people in the comments asking if there is a link. There was a link that was shared on Twitter that I saw. I also was sent a PDF of it by a friend. I can't necessarily link the PDF to the YouTube video, and the link that I did have earlier from Twitter, the site crashed because so many people were trying to read it at one time. And so what I'm going off of now is screenshots I'm getting from friends going through the PDF, and then myself going through everything I can on Twitter to see if there's any other things that are being brought up. A lot of a lot of jokes about Stephen Hawking, I'll tell you that. I'm very interested to see a little bit more about what exactly Hawking is implicated in. However, as I mentioned earlier, many on the left were hoping that Donald Trump would be implicated further in this. And in a line of questioning regarding Donald Trump, the question was posed, did you ever see Donald Trump at Jeffrey Epstein's home? Not that I can remember. On his island? No. In Mexico? No. In New York? No. All right. So as far as it's known, Jeffrey Epstein and Trump, their relationship only ever extended to the few lavish parties that I know Jeffrey was at. And it's also alleged that Trump kicked Epstein out of his house once he had found him doing something creepy to young women. Let's see what else is trending when it comes to this topic, trying to find anything else that could be of interest to us. Obviously, many are talking about Bill Clinton. This is something I think is worth sharing. This is a flashback to Ricky Gervais when he hosted one of those award shows that nobody really watches, but this instance was actually worth watching. I'm going to bring it on screen so that everybody can watch it here. I hope it doesn't lag too much. Take a look and listen to this flashback clip. We know he's your friend. We know he's your friend. And once again, I discuss the fact that nothing is out of the realm of possibility anymore. And that's just another great example of somebody calling the wackos that are into this kind of thing out on it. Let's see who else is being dragged through the proverbial mud on the internet. Many are trying to link Trump much more to this. Once again, as I said, Trump was mentioned, I believe, 12-ish times in the document, as far as in my brief research that I had, or my brief ability to research it, around 12 times. Then you had people like Bill Clinton who were mentioned upwards of 50 times. Let's keep seeing if there's anything else coming out. I'm sure the media tomorrow will have had all night to comb through this significantly. Unfortunately, right now, this is not my full-time job, and so I will not have all night to comb through this, but I'm hoping that the media does. I'm going to refresh the page, see if there's anything else I can find. I do have some other content for you guys here tonight as well. Keep that comment section buzzing because I'd love to hear what you guys might be finding that I could have missed. But let's see if there's anything else going on in here. What's trending right now? Go to my home. Also, I want to once again thank Patty for subscribing. You can become a member to this show on YouTube. It's one of the great ways you can support this show. And thank you, Patty, so much for doing so. There are some different perks of becoming a member, different like emojis that you can use that have my face on them. You can also at some point here when and now that I have an official member, I'll start releasing content. When I release some content, I can make it so that it goes to members first. So if you want to be the first person to see some of my content, not necessarily my live streams, but some other videos that I'll be making outside, then that'll be something that you can see as a member before it actually is released to everybody else. And I'll even have some member only content as well. Asked how many names, as I covered a little bit earlier. So 170 is the total 170 is the total number of names that is eventually going to be able to come out. As of right now, I believe it's around 150. That was what the reports earlier this morning said it would include, as the other 20 names are being held up in court for various reasons. So it should be 170 at some point, 150 as of the current moment is what I am currently hearing. I'm going to go through and see if there's I'm just making sure, reading through some different things here. I'm going to see if there's anything else going on. Yeah, the Tom Pritzker one. Billionaire Hyatt Hotels executive chairman Tom Pritzker identified in Epstein's documents allegedly involved in sexual activities with an Epstein victim. Tom is currently considered the heir to the Pritzker family, which includes at least 11 billionaires. Notable members include Governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, and Harvard board chair Penny Pritzker. Let's see if there's anything else. This could be a continuing story that I also follow more throughout the show as I get into some other stories. This is an interesting quote I'm finding regarding Alan Dershowitz. Alan Dershowitz, for anybody who does not know, is a high-profile attorney who has been a contributor about law and has also worked at Ivy League schools, published numerous documents as it pertains to law, also worked as a consultant to some of the O.J. Simpson attorneys during that trial. And this is an instance in which he is brought forward in this. One such powerful, and this is a quote, one such powerful individual that Epstein forced then minor Jane Doe number 3 to have sexual relations with was former Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz, a close friend of Epstein's and well-known criminal defense attorney. Epstein required Jane Doe number 3 to have sexual relations with Dershowitz on numerous occasions while she was a minor, not only in Florida, but also on private planes in New York, New Mexico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. In addition to being a participant in the abuse of Jane Doe number 3 and other minors, Dershowitz was an eyewitness to sexual abuse of many other minors by Epstein and several of Epstein's co-conspirators. Dershowitz would later play a significant role in negotiating the NPA on Epstein's behalf. Indeed, Dershowitz helped negotiate an agreement that provided immunity from federal prosecution in the Southern District of Florida, not only to Epstein, but also to any potential co-conspirators of Epstein. Thus, Dershowitz helped negotiate an agreement with the provision that provided protection for himself against criminal prosecution in Florida for sexually abusing Jane Doe number 3, because this broad immunity would have been controversial if disclosed. Dershowitz, along with other members of Epstein's defense team and the government, tried to keep the immunity provisions secret from all of Epstein's victims and the general public, even though secrecy violated the Crime Victims' Rights Act. Interesting accusations. Interesting accusations being made. I am, again, all of these. So here's the thing when it comes to these documents. These documents, for the most part, are a compilation of testimony, stories, anecdotes that are on the record. None of it is absolute fact. We, in some cases, will never know the full truth of this story. However, this is the closest we may be able to get in some cases. And while some of these people might never actually receive full justice for what they committed, at least on earth, we know who they'll receive full justice from. But they won't receive full justice on earth, potentially. But at least they'll have their name associated with one of the most powerful pedophiles in American history. This is a story I'll follow up with at the end of the show. Maybe that'll give some people some time to comb through it, maybe release some more regarding it. But I do have some other things to discuss in this show. As you guys might have seen, if you had been following this, so I got to talk about a few things before, as we kind of move on a little bit from the Epstein story. We'll come back to it. But I got a few things I want to talk about. To start off with, I know I haven't been live, and I know I haven't posted some content in quite a little bit. I'm sorry, everybody. The holidays were amazing, and I hope they were amazing for you guys as well. When I say holidays, I don't mean it in like a liberal standpoint or any bull crap like that. No, my birthday was Christmas Eve. I'm now 23. And so I hope you guys, if you guys like Christmas Eve and maybe didn't know it was my birthday, I get it. But if you did wish me a happy birthday and I didn't reply or something like that, I'm sorry, but I love you and thank you so much. But yes, I am 23 now. Christmas obviously was the following day. Had a lot to do in that week. I know I posted like a short or something. I didn't get that much out. And then I had the new year in which I went and traveled and visited a wonderful girl in my life, my new girlfriend and her family, and they were amazing as well. And so that was a lot of fun, also a lot of time. And so I'm back. I'm starting a new job this week at a new radio station, doing something a little bit different than usual. I won't get super into that. But I've been busy. But I'll be back, and I'm back now, and I've been following the news. Do not worry. And so I'm very excited to share with you guys some of these stories and talk about some interesting things. 2023, I want to start off with 2023 because it is the new year, and a lot of shows do this, and I just think it's interesting, is recapping 2023 a little bit for everybody and taking a moment to reflect. Look, 2023 was a major, major year for me personally, but a major year in general. I mean, think about if we think about just some of the top stories from 2023 off the top of our heads, we had the Chinese spy balloons. Remember that? That was like February or March. It was early in the year. We had the Chinese spy balloons flying across America. We had, are attempting to nominate a speaker twice. A Speaker of the House. We had the most votes to nominate a speaker, I believe, in American history back in January of 2023. And then the first time in a long time that the speakership was vacated, and then having to redo that again. Huge out of Congress. What's more with that is we also had you guys remember that the submersible? The submarine, the very wealthy people that wanted to go to try to see the Titanic and died pretty quickly, as we heard. Tons of things. On a personal level, for myself, I started this YouTube channel, period. And look how much it's already grown. Over 1,300 followers in 9 months, 10 months since I started it. Started posting consistently, at least. That's huge. And it's because of each and every one of you. And so I want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for supporting this show in some way. I really do appreciate it. And obviously, we're making some changes. We're evolving. It's a new era of Speechless. And thank you for taking this journey with me. But I had that. I lost 50 pounds. I lost 50 pounds in the last year. I graduated from college. I'm going to circle back to the 50 pounds one, but I graduated from college with 2 degrees. I have had numerous life-changing experiences just in that 1 year. And 2024 is going to be no different in terms of creating life-changing experiences and change it, and also coming up with new things to guide me through. Now, a lot of people, when it comes to New Year's, they talk about resolutions. And while I don't think it's necessarily a bad time to discuss making a life change. I mean, there's something poetic about the idea of New Year's and the idea that you have a new start, a new opportunity to make a change in your life. And I'll admit this segment that I'm kind of going on here is not ardently statistical or anything, but I'm sure many of you know, and I'd be willing to bet that a significant number of New Year's resolutions made by people, at least in America, if not worldwide, have to do in some way with physical fitness. Now, I did not start, as I mentioned earlier, I've lost just about 50 pounds. 50 pounds in 2023, just about. I did not start my weight loss journey because of the day of the week, the day of the year, the date on the calendar. I started it because I looked in the mirror, and you guys, a lot of you, if you watched the show before, you've heard me tell this story. But I started it because I looked in the mirror and I didn't like what I saw. I didn't do it because of some day on the calendar. I did it because I didn't like what I saw. I didn't like what was going on in here in my head. And I didn't like the idea of getting on Xanax or Zoloft or other anti-anxiety, antidepressants, anything like that, numbing my brain so that it wouldn't think anymore. At least not about that. I didn't like that idea. And as it happened to be, when I was at college, I didn't have a way to get to work. I didn't have a ride. I didn't have a car. I could have taken the bus, but then I couldn't work on my own schedule as much. I'd have to go based on what the bus did. So I started walking. To work. And it wasn't because, I want to remind everybody, it wasn't because of the day on the calendar. It wasn't because of that. It's because I knew I needed to make a change. So I started walking to work, about 2 miles there, 2 miles back, 2 to 3 miles, give or take. And I started losing weight a little bit. I also made some dietary changes. Instead of having a bunch of sugary drinks all the time, I had more water. When I looked at the beers that I was having, when I indulged on ever so occasions, I looked at the calories in that and switched to a lower calorie beer. When I do drink what is considered sugary beverages, I drink diet along with walking. I slowly progressed, step by step, pun intended. I slowly progressed to where I was consistently losing more and more weight, getting more and more in shape. Then I started increasing my distances. I increased my speed to where now, for the most part, I run about 5 to 7 miles every day, just about. And again, I'm down 50 pounds. I also do about 100 push-ups a day. And this isn't me bragging. This is me trying to tell you, if the making another turn around the sun is what does it for you, and that's what makes you say, I'm gonna change my life around for whatever it is, whether that's weight loss or anything else. Weight loss, being more clean around your house, cleaning out that drawer that you just have never gotten to, trying to be more organized in your life, find a new job, whatever it is you're trying to change about your life, you don't need to wait till January 1st. And if you didn't get it done on January 1st, January 2nd, January 3rd, May 25th, July 14th, December 31st of 2024, whatever, is a perfect day to get started. What I firmly believe, while some people might need that revolution around the sun, some people might need that. My firm belief is that it's got to get to a point where you need to make it happen. And so I'll leave it there. I'll get off my soapbox for that one. But I wish each and every one of you, while it might sound I was coming down on anybody there, I wasn't coming down on anybody. I was just trying to let you know you can do it. And it can happen today. I always reference that Rocky Balboa quote, probably one of my favorite quotes. I listen to it almost every day. Life ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It'll beat you to the ground and keep you on your knees permanently if you let it. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. And if you know what you're worth, go out and get what you're worth. But don't be blaming him, her, or anybody for not being where you want to be. Take it from him. Take it from me. Whatever it is you need to be doing, you can do it. You can start today. You could start on the 1st. You could start tomorrow. But it's got to be you who makes that decision. So that's my soapbox on the New Year's stuff right there. On getting on all of that kind of stuff. But let's see what's going on in the comments before I get to some other things. Howdy, Kev. Been upgrading my chicken cam, so I missed the start. All good. I guess that might have been your New Year's resolution, and I love to hear about that Oklahoma chicken cam. Thank you for joining. Thank you. Can I recommend swimming? So a big thing for me, here's a big thing, is when it comes to my runs, I love getting the music in my head. I get in the music, I get into a beat with the music, and I just get into a flow of it. I can't listen to me. I mean, I'm sure they make underwater headphones or something like that, but it's just I like the way that I got it going with my runs. Eventually, I might get bored of it, and I'll need something else to stay in shape, and that's when I'll take on maybe swimming. I used to swim prior to high school. I used to swim competitively. I was never great at it, but I used to run competitively too, and I was never good at that. Um, a great other quote that might motivate you is "You smell like corn chips and failure." If you like the deprecating motivational tactic, that might work for you. That might work for you. But now, as I've finished reflecting on 2023 a bit, I also want to make sure you guys reflect on your 2023. So definitely take a moment sometime soon to just think about what happened in the last year, what you did well, what you did wrong. I've definitely thought about the things that I did wrong, but I'm not going to share them here because this is my show and I don't need to cry today. But uh, let's talk about some 2024 stuff. Let's talk about 2024. Um, oh, interesting. I hope that's not me. It seems like my stream is still live. Seems like it is. And so maybe I haven't gone far enough. But we'll get back to some of that stuff. But let's talk, as I said, let's talk about 2024. And also, guys, as I want to keep this show going, I also want to point out the what I always do on this show, but just a reminder to, while I always love that you guys like, subscribe, share, comment, share, definitely do that. And that's a great way to support the show. And I appreciate it. There's always what I also recommend, if you can, and you have the means, if maybe you missed out on the Christmas giving season or even wanted, or my birthday or anything like that, and you want to support the show, help me get more equipment, help me upgrade my features, and new microphone and new camera and some better lighting than I have right now. And just make it overall a better show. If you wouldn't mind considering supporting, you could become like a member that Patty did, where there's some exclusive content features with that. You can support the show through Venmo or Cash App. I'd appreciate it. Those are listed right down there, and they're always consistently scrolling at the bottom in case you feel like it later. If you want to support the show, make sure that more content can come out, allow me to invest in myself, this show, and the future of it. Please consider doing so. Thank you so much. Now, as I said, 2024. Let's go here. I have some predictions for 2024. And I have a few videos to pull up to make sure that I can show you guys exactly what my predictions are. But let's start here. I have 3 different predictions for this year. I have a realistic prediction, I have a pessimistic prediction, and I have an optimistic prediction. And so we're going to talk about those. We're going to start off with my realistic prediction. My realistic prediction about 2024 is that anti-white racism will make a peak, or at least hit an all-time high. Now, I consider this realistic because of the evidence that I can provide for it. We've been building up to this. Anti-white racism will hit an absolute peak. For years, we have heard rhetoric that pins the blame of society's ills on white people. We hear things like slavery was invented by white people, which is actually false. That racism was invented by white people. That white people, no matter what nowadays, whatever you do, you're racist. And even if your ancestors didn't own slaves, you are still in some way responsible for it. We've had school curriculums change to expressly demonize white people and also blame the ills of certain minority communities on white people, as if it's somehow my fault that some people are in poverty stages. And again, also white people are in poverty too. To claim that it's only minorities or something, as the left often does, is in and of itself an insult and kind of racist by definition. But we can't go there. In fact, in 2023, we had a public recognition of a government-sponsored no whites allowed Christmas party. And they acted like, well, we've been doing this for years. Who cares? It was defended by many as well. There are college graduations that are segregated, high school graduation. There are events consistently that are segregated, and it's praised by the left. The pot, if it wasn't already, now the pot is boiling. And there are also some examples of this in Hollywood. And so I want to have us all take a look and a listen to some of these things. This is actually a clip from a movie. It came out in 2023, has recently been making its rounds on Twitter and such, and all those that verse and that part of the world. And so this is a movie, American Fiction, and this is just a brief scene from that movie. Take a look and a listen.
Oh, the perfect timing. This is Coraline.
Hello, dear. I'm Agnes.
Okay.
I'm happy you're not white.
I'm happy you're not white. I'm happy you're not white. And look, I got to admit, I haven't seen the movie. I don't know the context of that. But no matter what, that's just like commonplace, and they're smiling and laughing about it. That's insane. And then we can bring up this one. This is a movie that's actually going to be coming out in 2024. The trailer was recently released, and apparently I'm not even supposed to say the title of this movie. But don't worry, in the clip I'm pulling up, you will hear the title of the movie right at the beginning, and you'll understand why I'm not allowed to say the title of it. But let's take a look and a listen. And heck, maybe I'll even be goaded into saying the title, but let's take a look and listen.
Welcome to the American Society of Magical Negroes.
I don't really understand.
It's easier to say. What's the most dangerous animal on the planet?
Shark.
White people, when they feel uncomfortable. White people feeling uncomfortable precedes a lot of bad stuff for us. That's why we fight white discomfort every day. Because the happier they are, the safer we are.
The name needs a little updating, maybe like magical black people, or I guess that doesn't have the same ring.
So that's just a clip of this movie. And I'm just going to quote it. I'm going to quote the title. So for anybody out there that's going to try to take this clip out of context and be like, Kevin, you're so bad. No, it's the, what is it? The American Society of Magical Negroes is the title of the movie. And this is something that is actually coming out in 2024 and seems to be in some level of jest with itself. But at the same time, when posed the question of what's the most dangerous animal in the world, it seems the mentor type figure says that it's white people. That it's white people. And that is what I'm talking about. We have several instances, not only in the public sphere, but now even in our entertainment institutions and others that are outside of just that, that are openly, incredibly demonizing white people. And this movie, I can tell you, does it as a gag, as if it's funny. Now, what would the difference be if you made a movie called The American Society of Magical Crackers? Well, I guess that would just be called Harry Potter. But the point I'm trying to make here is you could not do that same movie. You could not make the same statements if it was about any other race, if it was a white person saying that about anybody else. We have a society right now where racism is the biggest crime you can commit unless it is against white people. What do I mean? Well, there are people that are murdered every single day. So that means a murderer is made every single day. However, what goes viral? What goes viral? Is it the tons of people that kill each other in Chicago? Is it that? Or is it the person, I'll reference this one. In like 2021, I think it was, a woman called, and she was described as a Karen, called the police because a guy was like walking his dog without a leash or something like that. And the guy was black, and it was racism. That woman was dragged through the mud. for that one minute of her life. For that 1 minute of her life, she was dragged through the mud. It is a bigger crime in the court of public opinion. It is a bigger crime to be a racist or to do something that is perceived as racism than to be a murderer. However, if you are racist towards white people, you get your own movie. You get your own movie. To make your own movie. So, when I discuss my predictions, my realistic prediction for 2024 is that anti-white racism will hit an all-time high and a peak. Remember that, because it leads into some of my other ones. But I also want to ask the question and answer, why is this happening? Because racial divisions are crucial to election years. When the Democrats brainwash populations to believe Republicans are white supremacists, then they also push out the narrative that white people in general are the problem. Somehow they're able to get, and when they do that, somehow they're also able to get an old white guy elected as president. Somehow they convince that he's one of the good ones. How people fall for it is beyond me. But look at years past. Racial divisions are always high in presidential election years, at least in the past 2 cycles. The George Floyd overdose was used as a political prop in 2020, and deaths such as Laquan McDonald and Trayvon Martin were used as pawns in 2016 without full context of the stories. This year, 2024, feels as though we have reached the pinnacle, the breaking point of racial tension. And hopefully, my hope is that the fever brewing subsides and that people recognize the evil that lies within this democratic practice of using the color of people's skin to control their emotions and thus control their voting habits. It's an evil practice. We see it all the time. Let's real quick get to some comments here. That's going on. Ryan Mack is predicting that Trump wins the election. Maybe. That's not one of the ones I'm coming up with here tonight because I still don't know, but maybe. Swimming has no shock value on the body and works every muscle in the body as your fitness consigliere. Oh, I got you. Swimming is great on the whole body workout with low joint stress. Yeah, I know it's something I should probably get into more. As a biracial white guy, I'm very worried for white people. Me too. And here's the thing, is there are a lot of people out there, a lot of white people, that cannot say they're proud to be white. And here's the thing, is I'm not even going to come out and say, like, I'm proud to be Irish. You talk to people that are important to me in my life, I'm very proud to be Irish, which in a way is saying I'm proud to be white. I also don't think that there's a necessity to necessarily be proud for the color of your skin, period. But to be proud of where your heritage lies and where you're from, I can understand that. And so, like, when I see people coming out like white pride, black pride, like all that kind of stuff, it's kind of unnecessary. But yeah, this is something we're going to be talking about. So I'll get back to this. Guillotine, as a white guy, I am also very worried for white people. Okay, Sarge. Okay. They're putting it in your face. Enough is enough. Absolutely. I also, in part, blame Obama for this. But yeah, so let's go back to my next prediction for 2024. So I told you I have 3. I have my realistic, which is the first one, that anti-white racism will hit an all-time high, which I just think is realistic based on all the evidence that I presented. It's been brewing. I think 2023 it hit a high point. I think it's only going up from there. Another prediction for 2024, and this one's kind of short, but it's my pessimistic take. This might come off as nihilistic, pessimistic, as lacking hope, but don't worry. My third one's great. My pessimistic take is that peace in 2024 will be out the window. Peace. Be out the window. Why do I think this? Overseas, we've seen war break out in the Middle East and in Eastern Europe. They've been ongoing, and many in Congress, as well as some running for president, Nikki Haley, have been chomping at the bit to send troops and spend money and getting involved in those wars. Not to mention, if there's a year for China to invade Taiwan, it's likely this one. A potential World War III could be in store for 2024. Along with that, tensions will be high domestically, period, due to the election, the racial tensions, and other factors. Unrest is brewing. Like 2020, I'd expect protests, riots, looting, and more. Also, not to mention the fact that essentially our border is currently open, and who knows what kind of terrorist activity is already being planned from many crossing the border. My hope is that none of this happens. I hope. But don't say I didn't warn you if it does. Peace will be out the window. Peace out the window in 2024. That's my pessimistic prediction. Now, that might leave you feeling doom and gloom right now. But I have a hopeful prediction, everybody. I have a hopeful prediction. If we can make it through that, if we can make it through the pessimism, my hopeful take is that we will have a cultural shift towards the majority of the country towards traditionalism, libertarianism, and or conservatism. With the unrest that I've listed domestically and abroad, and many in the country realizing chaos means more under Joe Biden than it ever did under Donald Trump, my hope is that we can begin to have a return to tradition and conservatism being the dominant culture. Now, not only do I believe that this will be the case, I have some evidence to back it up. First off, in some social issues, such as the transgender theories, the left and Democrats are losing. I've talked about the statistics on my show before. Pew Research has shown that the vast majority of Americans believe that you should wait until you're over 18 to have any kind of a gender surgery. It should not be done when you're a minor. It should be illegal if it's it should be banned for minors. There are also the majority of the country also believes that biological men should compete in biological men's sports. Conservatives are winning more on that issue. And some other social issues. We're still kind of losing on abortion, but give it a chance. Along with that, we can look at the election of Argentinian President Javier Milei, a country that was once steeped in the socialist pink wave that swept across Central and Southern America. Argentina hit a political turning point at the end of 2023 when they voted in a populist libertarian who, since taking office, has cut the country's ministries in half, drastically decreased government bureaucracies, and has maintained a sense of patriotism the whole time. In fact, I even saw a video, Javier Milei boarding an airplane in which he got everybody singing like the Argentinian national anthem. Like, not a private plane, a public plane. And he got everybody singing it. It's not just America who is starting to turn back towards traditional and somewhat conservative values. Argentina has done it, and other countries that have embraced a socialist communist lifestyle are starting to realize the error of their ways. Countries across the globe are getting fed up with socialism, communism, and woke culture. And America is hitting a lot of the boiling points. And it would seem as though we may have the shift many have been building up to, that it might be coming. It might be on its way. But the real test of that, I can tell you, the real moment that we'll really know if we are on that path will be Election Day. I firmly believe that. It'll be Election Day. We're going to have to go through some of the pessimistic predictions that I set up throughout this year. Remember the summer of love of 2020? get ready for the Summer of Love Part 2 Electric Boogaloo, because that's what I think is going to happen. But if we can make it through that, then I think we'll see a shift beginning at the end of this year. And those are my 3 predictions for 2024. Realistic, pessimistic, and optimistic. Let's see what you guys are saying in the comments about all that. I see there's a little bit of arguments going on. Black isn't a race, it's a culture. Prove me wrong. Same for white. Coming up soon, guys, I'm going to talk about the Claudine Gay plagiarism scandal. Also, what an unfortunate last name. I know I've said that multiple times, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit more and get into that whole scandal and why it's important and what the Associated Press had to say about it, what others on Twitter and stuff were saying about it. We're going to talk about that next soon here. I'm going to refill my drink here in a moment. I'm going to go through some more of your comments. I'll also do an Ask Me Anything at the end of this. If there's questions that you guys have, make sure to send them in the chat. And I would love to be able to answer those for you. Let's see what else you guys are saying through all this. Here we go. There is not pride in America, or we can all just be Americans. What an idea. Again, I'm thinking we're on our way back there. It's not going to be quick. It's not going to be easy, but I think we're on our way there, in which people are going to start turning against, especially if the left becomes as pro-war as some of them have voiced. That's one thing, and I'm not going to make a whole segment out of this or anything, but I got to briefly applaud. At the end of 2023, a guy that I've been making fun of practically relentlessly actually kind of surprised me, and that was John Fetterman. John Fetterman actually had some good takes near the end of 2023. You know, this stroke guy that didn't really take any time to get better and also wears gym shorts to Congress when he came. He was calling out a lot of his Democratic people about like their honestly pro-terrorism stances. He did a good job. So credit where credit's due. Good job to John Fetterman at the end of that year. Not everything that he does, but that specific instance, good job. Okay. Let's get into this next story then. Keep the comment section rolling, guys. I'll do my best to get into anything you guys want to talk about there. But this one's kind of long. So Claudine Gay, unfortunate last name. She resigned as the president of Harvard. I had like a whole show on her, or a whole segment at least, within the last few weeks. Excuse me. Claudine Gay resigned as the president of Harvard University out of the Daily Wire on Tuesday in a letter to the university community, as first reported by the Harvard Crimson. Gay's reported resignation comes in the wake of numerous plagiarism allegations, as well as her controversial congressional testimony on what Harvard is doing to combat anti-Semitism on campus after Hamas's attack on Israel. Now, like I said, as I previously discussed on this show, Gay has been hit with nearly 50 allegations of plagiarism affecting 8 of her 17 published works. So 8. So out of 17, it's about 50%. Now, in this letter that she sent to resign from her position, what did she say? Did she apologize for plagiarizing? Or take responsibility for condoning anti-Semitism on her campus? Well, if you're waiting to hear any of that, if you're waiting for her to take any level of responsibility, don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath. Let's take a look at what she did write. Here's just some clips I took from it. It is with a heavy heart, but a deep love for Harvard that I write to share that I will be stepping down as president. My deep sense of connection to Harvard and its people has made it all the more painful to witness the tensions and divisions that have riven our community in recent months, weakening the bonds of trust and reciprocity that should be our sources of strength and support in a time of crisis. Amidst all of this, it has been distressing to have doubts cast on my commitments to confronting hate and upholding scholarly rigor. Two bedrock values that are fundamental to who I am. And frightening to be subjected to personal attacks and threats fueled by racial animus. Let me repeat that. Subjected to personal attacks and threats fueled by racial animus. Now, there was a lot of big words that Miss Gay used in that. A lot of big words. Huge. But here's what she's really saying in simple terms. That last paragraph. I'm just going to read it as I would read it if I was dumbing it down for myself, honestly, how I read it in my head. It has been hard to have people question whether or not I'll confront hate and uphold school standards. Two things I truly believe in. It's been harder for me, to have personal attacks and racism against me. That's basically what she's saying with all of this. Racial animus is what she says. Racial animus. Now, like I said, that's basically a pretentious way of crying racism. Now, according to this letter, this is how Claudine Gay's mind works. She's basically saying, I couldn't have been pushed to resign because of my poor congressional testimony. I, of course, confront hate. Nor could it have been my numerous verifiable counts of plagiarism. I, of course, love school. No. Couldn't have been all that. It had to have been racism. Now, tell me you're a diversity hire without telling me you're a diversity hire. That's essentially what she's doing in all of this. And the thing is, leftists went right along with this narrative. Tons on Twitter. We're calling it out because this is now the shortest tenure any Harvard president has ever had. And there's a lot of leftists on Twitter that are like, oh my God, yeah, it's racism. Prominent race grifter and author of that book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, which really should be titled correctly, How to Be a Racist, Ibram X. Kendi, posted on Twitter now actually X. He said this, he goes, racist mobs won't stop until they topple all black people from positions of power and influence who are not reinforcing the structures of racism. What these racist mobs are doing should be obvious to any reporter who cares about the truth or justice as opposed to conflicts and cliques. Really? Here's the thing. So at the beginning of that tweet, he says, racist mobs won't stop until they topple all black people from positions of power. Well, back in May 2023, Kendi attacked Clarence Thomas on X, saying, quote, Justice Clarence Thomas was accepting lavish gifts from a billionaire GOP donor. His colleagues, Justice Elena Kagan, declined a gift of lox and bagels from a high school buddy because she thought it could violate court ethics rules. So apparently, mobs are only racist when you go after a plagiarist. Kendi, however, will attack a black justice with support while supporting a white justice, Elena Kagan, when the black man is a conservative. Now, this is not a commentary on the ongoing Clarence Thomas drama. I got to be honest, I don't know enough about it to necessarily make a full comment. But let's compare the two from Kendi's own point of view. The Clarence Thomas one and the plagiarism from Claudine Gay. Claudine Gay verifiably plagiarizes. Then she resigns, and it's apparently racism and evil white supremacists that want to tear her down and tear down all black people. Then Clarence Thomas allegedly violates ethics rules, and now it's time for accountability. It's an absolute double standard from Kendi. He'll come out in defense of a verified plagiarist because she fits the narrative. Because she fits the narrative. Thomas doesn't. And so any attack on him doesn't count. It's a double standard. But I'm also deviating a little bit from the word of the day, and that word of the day is plagiarism. What has long been thought to be, at best, poor practice, and at worst, an action worthy of legal recourse, is now thought of as a conservative weapon. Seriously. It's a conservative weapon. Out of the Associated Press today, Harvard president quits. Claudine Gay resignation highlights new conservative weapon. What is that conservative weapon they're talking about? Plagiarism. Plagiarism is a conservative weapon now, everybody. Interesting. Here's a quote from that article from the Associated Press. Conservatives zeroed in on Gay amid backlash over her congressional testimony about anti-Semitism on campus. Her detractors charged that Gay, who has had a PhD in government, was a professor at Harvard and Stanford and headed Harvard's largest division before being promoted, got the top job in large part because she is a black woman. She absolutely did. And if you don't believe it, Claudine Gay got that job because she was a black woman. And if you don't believe it, her letter that she wrote, that I read parts of to you earlier, basically admits it in and of itself. It does. And now, so let me go back real quick to the letter. Here's the part I want to focus on. Frightening to be subjected to personal attacks and threats fueled by racial animus. Once again, basically saying that it's because of racism that she was forced to resign. If you're going to say, Miss Gay, that you got ousted for being black, when there was tons of evidence that had merit to prove that you were in fact a plagiarist, then how can you also claim that you had merit to be hired in the first place? You ignore the merit when it's negative, but want it recognized when it's positive. And that's not how it works. You see what I'm saying, everybody? She wants to say that it's because she's black that she was fired. Well, you can't do that in her case because without also recognizing that it's because she was black she was hired. You can't say there's no merit. You have no credibility to your words if you cannot recognize that there is meritable evidence as to why you are being pushed to resign. If you don't recognize that merit, then you negate your opportunity to recognize that there was merit to you being hired in the first place. Claudine Gay was hired because she was black. Because she would be the first black Harvard president. In an era that values that more than actually somebody who worked hard to get to where they are and played by the rules to do so. But the article that claims plagiarism is a conservative weapon continues by saying, Christopher Rufo, a conservative activist who helped orchestrate the effort against Gay, celebrated her departure as a win in his campaign against elite institutions of higher education. On X, formerly known as Twitter, he wrote, quote, scalped, as if Gay were a trophy of violence, invoking a gruesome practice taken up by white colonists who sought to eradicate Native Americans and also used by some tribes against their enemies. He continued, tomorrow we get back to the fight, describing a playbook against institutions deemed too liberal by conservatives. His latest target? Efforts to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in education and business. Now, this is just another example of fake offense from progressives. That's really what it is. Because they see that he wrote scalped, and then they go on to compare him to a white colonist that that commits gruesome acts against Native Americans, also negating the gruesome acts that Native Americans also committed against each other and the white colonists. But okay, we can ignore that because that's how the leftist narrative works. I digress. When in reality, the point he was making is we got rid of another diversity hire. He's going after diversity, equity, and inclusion because what it promotes is this idea that your skin color matters more than who you are, the work you've done, the work you didn't do, the mistakes you've made, and whether or not you've learned from them. No, diversity, equity, and inclusion is about valuing you for this rather than this and that. That's what it's about. And so why did he write scalped? He wasn't saying that we scalped Claudine Gay. No. He's saying we're scalping the woke DEI movement. Look, I'm sorry, figurative language might be too much for some of these liberal minds to comprehend. However, the metaphor is not lost unto me. But that's everything. That's the majority of what's going on with the Claudine Gay scandal. I do also want to point out that because plagiarism is the word of the day, it's like a Sesame Street episode. What's the word of the day? It's plagiarism. Taking somebody else's work and passing it off on your own. Many people are trying to point to this instance of plagiarism, which I'll admit is bad. I think plagiarism is bad. But this instance in which it would seem as though Melania Trump, years ago at a Republican National Convention, plagiarized a speech from Michelle Obama. And I'm going to explain to you why I'm going to play this clip. So I'm going to pull it up on screen here. Take a look and a listen to this clip. And this is something that leftists, so now that Claudine Gay was ousted from her role, many are being like, well, come on, plagiarism is in this instance also happened. It's as bad. Take a look and a listen. We'll talk about it.
Barack and I were raised with so many of the same values. Like, you work hard for what you want in life.
The values that you work hard for what you want in life.
That your word is your bond, that you do what you say you're going to do.
That your word is your bond, and you do what you say and keep your promise.
That you treat people with dignity and respect.
That you treat people with respect.
Because we want our children and all children in this nation to know that the only limit to the height of your achievements is the reach of your dreams and your willingness to work hard for them.
Because we want our children in this nation to know that the only limit to your achievements is the strength of your dreams and your willingness to work for them.
Barack and I were raised.
So that's what a lot of lefties are bringing up on Twitter to try to say, oh my God, well, you guys are so mad about Claudine Gay's plagiarism. What about this? What about this? What about this? And I want to start, before I talk about any of this thing, by saying that the chances that Melania had almost anything to do with writing that speech are slim to none. First off, English is not her first language. Writing a speech in English, I guarantee you, would be a little bit more difficult for her. Just saying. Not to mention the fact that it was probably plagiarized by some speechwriter, assistant, interns, if not a team of all of those combined. And they're probably fired or laid off, whatever, moved around in the campaign at the time. The chances are that Melania actually wrote that are slim to none. And so to claim that Melania plagiarized it herself is kind of a BS claim. But I don't know. I don't know that for a fact. I wasn't on the campaign. I didn't plagiarize it, so I don't know. But knowing how politics works, that seems to be most likely. But let's even play by the left's rules for a second. Let's assume that Melania wrote that, knew that it was plagiarized, and gave it anyway. Let's assume that. And then let's play a game of spot the difference. Spot the difference. Look, it's a pretty easy difference to spot. What's the difference about the instance of Melania's plagiarism and former Harvard president Claudine Gay's? Well, to start off, Claudine Gay's was not a speech. Melania's was. Not only that, Melania's was a speech made at the Republican National Convention that honestly was more of a formality than of any real significance. Honestly, it probably wouldn't have been memorable at all if not for the scandal. Just as much as Michelle's speech that she gave at the Democratic National Convention in the comparable clip, or maybe it was during Obama's campaign trail or something, but whatever, nobody would have remembered that speech. It wouldn't have been remembered if not for the scandal. It would have gotten lost in the trove of meaningless political hype speeches first ladies have made over the years. It didn't have any major significance. Now, why is that important? Let's compare that. Let's spot the difference, everybody. Let's play spot the difference. I'm going to treat you like a child, lefties, because you act like it. This is important because Claudine Gay literally earned the doctorate that ultimately got her the position of president of Harvard through plagiarizing published educational materials. She literally got to where she was because she plagiarized. 8 of her 17 published works included sections that were plagiarized. That's almost half. So you want to try to pretend, you want to try to equate Melania Trump and her speechwriters taking some crap that Michelle Obama said from a forgettable speech a few years earlier. You want to compare that to somebody who literally got to be the president of an Ivy League school through plagiarism, in part through plagiarism. There's no comparison to be made. It's an absolutely idiotic comparison to make. And anybody who tries to make it must not be smarter than a 5th grader. You lose. That's everything I got for the Claudine Gay story. Let's see what you guys have been talking about. I know that was kind of long, but I had a lot to say about it. That's what I prepped for most of the show today. Then the Epstein stuff came out. Let's see what you guys have been talking about in the let's go all the way back. Who coined black and white in regards to people? I have a theory that they did it on purpose because it's in our DNA. White is holy and black is evil. It's in our psyche that way. Psyche. They knew this. I don't know. I don't think it's that. I would say it's that the lightest skin tone of somebody is usually white. Like there are people that are genuinely so pale they're white. Like I'm more of like a peach or a red or a pink. But there are people that are genuinely so pale that they're essentially white, and there are people that are so dark, have so much melanin that they look like they are black, like the color black. So that'd be where I would say it came from. But I saw. Wow, she blames racism. Who would have guessed that? I know, right? Let's see what else is going on here. Question. Okay, here's a question for the segment. What do you think about the black community in Chicago inviting Trump here to talk about immigration? I don't think they invited any other candidate by name. So I didn't hear about that. And I also don't, when you say the black community in Chicago, the black community in Chicago is a very, very broad, as somebody who's from near Chicago, not Chicago proper, but nearby. That's a very broad statement. There's a lot of black people in Chicago. It might even have the highest population density of black people of anywhere in the nation. I don't know off the top of my head, but it definitely has a very high black population. And I don't know about this story specifically, but it wouldn't surprise me. What I will say is that assuming everything you're saying is true, and I have no reason to not believe it, it wouldn't surprise me for the fact of the matter that Trump is the only Trump was the person who ran in 2016 on Build the Wall. He wanted to do something about immigration. When he was president, our border crossings were at all-time lows, and we were starting to get some reform into legal immigration. And now that in an amazing chess-like move, you have governors like Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis sending illegal immigrants to places in sanctuary states like Chicago, or sanctuary cities like Chicago, and states like Illinois. I'm sure a lot of those people are getting mad that the illegal immigrants are now coming and taking up their football fields. It's a real thing, real story out of Chicago. They're taking over their football fields. They're sleeping on the football fields. Now the kids don't have anywhere to play football after school. That's just one example. But they're taking that. Brandon Johnson is also the mayor of Chicago currently, which is basically just dude Lori Lightfoot, is now also offering them more benefits than he ever even offered to the social welfare program that many were feeding off. So now the illegal immigrants are taking a lot of benefits from those on welfare in Chicago. Oh, I'd be mad too. So they're probably inviting Trump by name, if that's a real thing, to talk about that. Michael Obama. You think he'll be president? I don't know. I don't know. Gay is still getting paid 1 point. I didn't even see that. I'm going to have to do a follow-up with that. Melania isn't making squad. Yeah, and the other thing, too, is compare Melania to Michelle Obama, too. Like, Melania was kind of what a lot of people, some people, not everybody, but some people I kind of do, like out of a first lady. She had her Be Best program that was about anti-bullying, but didn't try to take it to a bunch of policy or anything. It was more of just advocacy. Michelle Obama inserted herself into policy significantly. And while she does have a legal record to kind of go on, we didn't elect you as president. We didn't elect you for anything. I mean, I didn't even elect any of them. But the people who did vote and voted for Obama elected Barack Obama. They didn't elect Michael Obama. So, but thank you very much. I appreciate this, guillotine. I had kind of a lot to cover tonight. I'll admit, after starting my new job, I am getting a little tired. But I did want to cover at least one more story. I've been, for my other things that I was considering covering, I will make shorter videos of them within the next few days and post them onto YouTube. And so if you want to make sure that you can see them before anybody else does, you can become a member of this channel. All you got to go do is go to my channel, become a member. Patty did it earlier. Patty, thank you so much. And those will be released before they're released to the general public, to members first. So definitely do that. But I want to cover this story here. It's a cultural story. And so I was kind of interested in it. Okay. Let me get another sip or two of this. I think you guys might be interested in this one. I'm going to do this too, because I can. I'm going to bring myself to the middle of the screen. Here we go. Okay. Here's out of the New York Post. I just thought this story was interesting and I wanted to cover it. It's from like a month ago, but I just saw it recently. What is NATO dating? What is NATO dating? Check out Gen Z's top 2023 dating trend. Young singles are no longer doggedly pursuing their happily ever after, new data has revealed. According to Tinder's annual year-end swipe, which shares the state of date in 2023, singles are less concerned about where their relationships are headed and more interested in creating opportunities that have new memorable experiences. This year in particular marked a major shift where the journey is more important than the outcome. This new generation of daters is showing us what it means to date for the possibilities, freeing themselves from traditional expectations and allowing them to write their own worthwhile stories, according to Tinder Chief Marketing Officer Melissa Hobley. Gen Z Tinder Australia spokesperson Christy Dunn agreed. Continue to usher a renaissance in dating, and this generation is certainly straying away from labels and more traditional expectations. 69% of young singles agree that dating standards need refreshing to fit more modern and diverse society. To any military buffs out there, no. When I say NATO, NATO dating, we're not talking about the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which should be disbanded just as much as NATO dating. Instead, it's an acronym for not attached to an outcome. Not attached to an outcome. An approach to dating that has been embraced by Gen Z, especially this year, and, quote, helps open up the possibilities of any and all connections instead of being fixated on a specific end game. Users are not looking for anything. They're not putting pressure on themselves or others by setting that expectation of only looking for a relationship or only looking for something casual. This sounds like a douchey boy at a frat party trying to convince that dumb sorority girl to sleep with him and not actually become his girlfriend. That's what it sounds like to me. That's why I'm saying it like that. It's very much in line with what we've been seeing over the last couple of years, particularly last year, as situationships become increasingly more prevalent. They're focusing on getting to know someone, being in the present, and living in the moment. They're leaving it open-ended so that they can explore whatever path they want, which can be quite freeing and liberating, man. This is idiotic. It also says Gen Zs aren't focusing on those conventional milestones like being married or having 2 kids and a white picket fence house by a certain age. Okay. This entire thing is idiotic. You shouldn't do anything in life, just about anything in life, if you cannot say, what is the purpose I am doing this? What is the purpose? If you cannot answer that question, what is the purpose I'm doing this? Not attached to an outcome. It sounds like you're trying to. Who actually calls it that too? This is the first time I had ever heard of this saying or this acronym NATO that was not affiliated with the military organization. The first time I heard it was through this article. It sounds like some crap that somebody made up who was typing this article and was just overgeneralizing. Because the thing is I don't disbelieve the article in and of itself. In the idea that that's how a lot of my generation operates, but I don't believe anybody in my generation is going around being like, and like on their first date saying like, oh, like what are you hoping comes of this? Oh, well, I'm really just more of a NATO dater. I'm just more of a NATO dater, you know? You know what NATO is, you know? I don't feel like anybody's doing that. You'd sound like a pretentious asshole if you did. But that's besides the point. NATO dating in and of itself is just stupid. It is. Going into any situation without look, I get not being attached to an outcome, but without having a certain level of expectation to an outcome is idiotic. I've said it with college. Let's take it outside of dating for a moment, then I'll bring it back in. But let's take college as an example. I have said multiple times on this show, you should not go to college if you do not have a general idea of what you want to major in and what you want to graduate with by the end. If you go into college as an undecided, and when I say college, I mean like if you go to a four-year university and you're undecided, you are stupid. Because you could be trying to figure out what you want to do at a community college where it will likely be mostly paid for, if not at least very cheap, much less expensive at a community college than at a 4-year university. So now let's break. So you should go into that 4-year university with a plan. Now let's bring it back to dating. As I mentioned earlier in the show, I've recently entered into a relationship. And if she's watching right now, she'll get mad at me about it. Or no, she probably won't. But prior to getting into this relationship, I had gone on dates with other people before I even knew this girl. And so I'd gone on dates with other people. And about the time that it would get to a second or third date, I would tell them. I would say, look, my plan is the person that I am dating with. If I'm going to enter into a relationship with a label on it, my plan is to marry said person. I do not want to waste my time, my energy, my emotional capacity, or my money, honestly, on somebody who does not plan on being invested in my life the way that I plan on being invested in theirs. And I'd gone on dates with many other women. And they'd be like, you're crazy. We're on a third date and you're already asking me to marry you. And I'm like, that's not what I'm saying exactly. But I'm saying that if we're going to proceed further, if we're going to put a label on this at some point, that would be my expectation. And for some, it scared them off. To which I said, good riddance. Because you're probably a hoe anyways. Maybe. That might be a little mean. But you know what I mean. But then the person I talk to now, I said it and she was a little weirded out at first, which I can understand because that's not the way my generation operates, obviously. But she came around and she was like, that actually kind of makes sense. That actually kind of makes sense. And so call me crazy if you want, but I'm not one to enter into a situation without a desired outcome in my mind. Why would you? Why would that be something that you would want to do? Why would you want to go into any situation and be like, well, hope it goes well, and not have any level of a plan to get to a desired outcome? It's all about, and like I said earlier, they make it sound as though it's the frat boy trying to convince like Stephanie from Delta Gamma Zeta, whatever flipping sorority it is, to sleep with him without having any strings attached. He's just like, man, like just live in the moment. Just live in the moment, man. Like you can just explore each other and get to know each other better. We don't need to have all these expectations. Let's just live in the moment. Do not be attached to the outcome. Be a NATO dater. I don't know. It's as insane to me. Not to mention the fact that it also causes the destruction of society. I know that sounds like a super slippery slope, but seriously, if we're just not going to have any expectation of an outcome for anything anymore, let's take it out of dating. I mean, dating to me would be one of the most important ones because a building block of society and maintaining society is the idea that we have heterosexual relationships, healthy enough ones that result in children who can then also grow up to be healthy adults, contribute to society and the workforce, and also get into heterosexual relationships that would thus produce more children and the cycle would continue. So that would arguably be at the very fundamental place, the most important building block. But what if like our politics worked like that? If it was just like, oh, like, I guess I'll run for Congress, but I'm not like really, I'm not really against losing it. Like we're just going to kind of let the experience happen and get to know each other. And maybe I'll win. Like, let's see, maybe I'll win. It's just some of the laziest shit I've ever heard. NATO dating has just given, this is more from the article. NATO dating has just given something that we've seen over many years in an actual term. It simply means that daters are relieving themselves of the societal pressures and timelines that are placed on them and allowing them to enjoy the plot and the phase of making connections and getting to know people. Long-term relationships are still one of the most popular relationship goals on Tinder. So although we're seeing a shift, there are still many users who value tradition. Well, thank God some still value tradition. While millennials may have defined hooking up as a one-night stand, for Gen Z, it's simply part of the dating process. and a way to explore a connection without the pressures of labels, not something to be ashamed of or secretive about. And that's how it pretty much ends. And that's even a problem for me, because hooking up and hookup culture has caused significant issues between men and women, period. But I don't know. Let's see what you guys have to say about this a little bit. I did say NATO dating. Tell me you got dumped. Man, I've never been dumped in my life. My gosh. Thank you for joining, Gaming. I appreciate it. Alectatious Gaming. It sounds like they ran out of genders to invent. Yeah, absolutely. It does sound like something you just slap a label on. I would love to have gone out with a woman who from every NATO member. That's a good one. Chicken Cam. Patty, my member, my favorite member. Seems to me that this research quoting Tinder is suspect, much like banking on research touting the benefits of marijuana funded by High Times magazine. Yeah, but I also believe that to an extent, Patty, here's the thing that I want to point out, is that it is, you're right in the fact that it is in Tinder's best interest to spread the idea that people don't want to actually be in relationships. You're very, very right. I love this. I love that comment, because it is in Tinder's best interest, because Tinder wants to keep people coming back. Tinder doesn't want you to be in a relationship. If Tinder wanted you to be in a relationship, then it would mean that they would cease to exist. If everybody who used Tinder was doing it to try to get married to the next person that they had a match with, then Tinder would cease to exist. So for them to push out thoughts or research that relates to the idea. The thing is, though, Patty, that I will also say is that I don't necessarily believe this research is false. While I believe the title of NATO dating was made up by whichever journalist wrote this, I do think that a lot of people in my generation see it this way. And it's only because I've experienced it firsthand. But you're right in the fact that Tinder absolutely has a vested interest in spreading this kind of messaging, because it only promotes their app more. Because if you're a NATO dater, Tinder is the best thing for you, because you can meet and swipe on as many people as you possibly could imagine and never actually have to commit to a single one of them. And you can have all the fun experiences of hooking up and living in the moment, man. You can have all that without ever actually having to take responsibility for your actions and commit to anything. I don't know if my computer just froze and if that screwed up with the stream. I don't know how long that might have gone. But I hope that I'm still here with you guys and that I covered that pretty well. Oklahoma Chicken Cam ended up marrying a West German chick. Good for you. Happy for you. Dating with a purpose is brilliant. Save yourself from wasting your time. Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. When you throw politics into dating, it gets ridiculous. It doesn't have to be one or the other, either hook up or get married. There is a middle ground. There is a middle ground. However, I would also advise against just hooking up. That takes an emotional turn. I guarantee you, there are even men out there that'll claim that there is no emotional toll that a singular sexual experience will have on a man. I disagree. I think every experience you have, period, will in some way affect your psyche. And if you will continue to have sexual exploit after sexual exploit after sexual exploit as a male and never actually have to commit to anything or anything, you will be truly a lonely individual. along with the possibility that you increase your chance of an unplanned pregnancy or sexually transmitted disease. But that's beside the point. Let's think about it just from the mental standpoint, is that you will just become a lonely individual because you'll have had all the physical needs that you desired fulfilled, but you will never have any of your other needs. I mean, if you look at like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you'll have your physical, but you won't have your metaphysical and your psychological fulfilled. Just saying. So I would advise against hooking up. Your camera froze, but audio was still good. Okay, well, that's good to know. Thank you. I think everyone knows that you don't support hooking up. Surprise, not every guy wants to live just hooking up either. Yeah, okay, well, I'm just advising against it. And again, that's not even from because I could totally make the religious argument for against hooking up, but I don't even need to. I don't need to try to convince you of any kind of religion or anything like that. Because just look, period. People will always be like, well, it'll feel good. It'll make you happy. No, it won't. It won't make you happy. You will not be a happy person just going out and screwing as many men or women, whatever you're into, that you want. I don't think anybody. Well, I do think that there are people that are too young to date, period. But I don't think anybody who is old enough to date is too young to date for marriage. I don't think that's a thing. I don't think you can be too young to date for marriage. If assuming you're of an age where it's okay to date. Because what other purpose would you have to dating somebody? To being in a relationship with them. A relationship in which you have a label. What would be the other purpose? I literally cannot think of one. Tell me how I'm wrong. I want to hear it. Look, I'm not telling you. Here's the other thing, too. I'm not telling you how you have to live. I'm just telling you based on my experience and the data I have also seen, some of which I've laid out, as to what will actually make you happy or what is more prone to make you happy than what is not. It's just simply healthier. And this is the problem. This is the problem. It doesn't mean that they're too young. It doesn't mean that they're too young to date for marriage. It means that they're not mature enough. They need to act their age. They need to act their age. I mean, if you're old enough, that's the way I see it. Then why not just have a lot of friends? What's the difference between that and friendship? And this is exactly what I'm saying. I'm not going to tell you exactly what you got to do. I'm not going to tell you exactly what you got to do. I don't get this, though. Okay, so you're telling me, DG, and I know I'm kind of just arguing with you. I'm pretty much done with most of my content for today, so I'll answer any questions about anything in here. But DG, so you're telling me that I can't come out and say that I think that this is the best way for people to live. You don't have to do it. You don't have to follow it. And you could find out, and you could find that the way I say might not work for you, whatever. But you're also coming on here and saying that no one is mature in their 20s or at 20. I won't say, I don't want to overgeneral, or I don't want to misquote you. But you're saying no one is mature at 20? Not a single person? So I'm not allowed to give a recommendation, but you can overgeneralize everybody at 20. That's funny. romantic feelings are not the same or are a bit different than friendship. I agree with you. I agree with you. But if the only purpose is to have a companion, then you're not really dating that person. If it's just companionship. Because, like, here's the way I see it going. Here's the way I see it going. You could hook up. You could hook up, which I've already said I don't think is a good thing. Or you get into, or you start hanging out with that person a lot and exclusively. And maybe you start sleeping together. Maybe, if that's what you're into. And then you're doing it exclusively because you're just spending all your time with that person. And you guys haven't put on a label on it, but it's all exclusive. And you know that the other person would get kind of mad if you started doing any of those things with another person. And so what are you doing at that point? You're dating in a relationship, and you're because the whole idea of dating to an extent is practicing for marriage. Getting to know that person and how they interact with you as a potential teammate for the rest of life. So to not have that as the ultimate goal is stupid. I can do it, and I will. And I am. Because I can say pretty much whatever I want. Let me see. Sorry, I didn't mean to skip way ahead. It was that there's a lot of things going, it scrolled down a lot for me. I think most people are not mature enough for marriage in this generation. I didn't say everyone. Okay. Understood. You can casually date people. Good Lord. Okay, so like you could go on like a date or two with somebody. Maybe 3. You could go on just a few dates with somebody, but to me, like, that means you have gone on dates. I think this is where maybe we're having a miscommunication by not defining our terms. Maybe we're not defining our terms, and that's the issue. When I say dating, if you are dating somebody, to me, that's an equivalent of you are in a relationship. If you are going on dates with somebody, that's like you're feeling it out, getting a feel for like, maybe I'll get into a relationship with them. But that's like what I said earlier. I would always have conversations at least by the 3rd date, if not even by the 2nd, in which I would say, if we're ever putting a label on this, my intention for that is marriage. Period. Point blank. Because I'm not wasting my time. I'm not wasting my money. I'm not wasting my energy or my emotional wherewithal. So. It's how I've been conditioned. I wouldn't say I've been conditioned that way. I came to a lot of this conclusion on my own. In fact, I've been urged by many in my life to date around and date a lot of different people. That's just not who I've gone on dates with a lot of people, but to me, if I'm just getting to know somebody, that's like a friendship. I've gone on a date here and there with different people, but I'm not going to go on, because after 3 dates is my maximum before I'm like, okay, we need to talk about where this is heading, because otherwise then I'm just going to keep wasting time and money. And I don't want to do that. I don't like people wasting my time. I don't like them wasting my money. So where is Tanner when you need him? The bottom line today is that people have radically changed dating to include sex and relationship and exclusivity. It doesn't have to mean that. I don't think that that's, I think you got it flipped. dating at one point meant that you were in a relationship with somebody, and that could mean sex, and it always means exclusivity for the most part. There have always been kind of like weird swingers and crap, but that's kind of a different thing. But but it's still no, nowadays it's dating is can simply mean purely sex to some. I mean, that's what the NATO relationships that I just covered was kind of about. It's like, just live in the moment, man. DG, you got to remember, I don't have fun. I'm kidding, but I am wasting my time to some extent. Because if the feelings aren't there, and if the feeling is also not mutual, that you wouldn't want to date for marriage if your intention is not to one day get married when dating me. I don't want to wake up a year from now and have somebody that I've been with be like, never mind. Like, I'm just done with you. I need a traditional conservative American girl to bring around my mother or nothing. Oof. They're not easy to find necessarily, Guillotine. Best of luck to you. Did you know Turning Point USA did have a speed dating thing at America Fest this year? Maybe I could recommend that. Maybe I could recommend that. It'd be good. My religion and my politics condition your values. Kind of, not in every way. I mean, my religion, yes, I would 100% say that. There are things that are within the Republican Party that are not values of mine, and things that they do that are not values of mine. So, but I mean, like, I also choose my religion. I mean, I've done my research and I've found what calls me the most, and so I kind of, to an extent, choose my religion. My politics is something that I kind of make the choice to be as involved in and care about as much as I do. But I see what you're saying. But I just don't. I hate the word condition because it's as if like I don't have any autonomy over it, and I do, because I chose the life that I'm currently living. So, in your generation, sex is like shaking hands, and it doesn't have to mean anything serious. I believe that it always does. I don't think that there is a single instance in which a sexual interaction means nothing to somebody. I think it always means something to everybody involved in the sexual encounter. And if it doesn't, if it genuinely means nothing, then I think that they should get checked out, evaluated. Because there are hormones that are released during a sexual act, or there are supposed to be, that create a level of connection between the two people involved. Maybe I'll get a doctor, like a sex doctor on the show to talk about it at some point. This is funny. That's a good one. Guillotine with the lines. That's a good one. Okay, wait. The problem with this whole conversation is that you're having it through your own values bias. Not everyone is looking to get married in their friggin' 20s. Okay, real quick. I'm going to step out of frame, and I want you to read the words on the screen, DG. I'm going to give you a minute, but the words behind me on the screen, I want you to read what they say. Okay, I dropped my mic. Oh, there it goes. But, did you see what it says back there? You see what it says? Speechless Kevin Phares. That's me. And so, everything I say on this show, I've been clear since day one. Everything comes from my own bias. It comes from my bias because this is an opinion show. Everything that I say that I'm clear about is that because obviously I use like certain primary and secondary sources and stuff. So of course that's not my opinion, but all of my analysis and everything comes from my opinion. It's my opinion. This is an opinion show. And so like, that's the thing is you are absolutely right, but I wouldn't say that's a problem within the conversation. I would say it would be a problem you're having with the fact that this is a show that is literally about my opinion. So you can be starting a family in your 20s. Absolutely. Absolutely. And by the time you're 30, you could have 3 or 4 children. See, here's the thing is that at one point, by the time, because like the thing is by the time you hit 25, you're not really like young anymore. I mean, like you're young in comparison to a lot of people, but you're not like young. For a lot of people, that's about a third of their life. They've completed 33% of their life liberally, they've completed a quarter of their life. Conservatively, they've completed about 33%, if not more of their life. And so by 25, how young are you really? And look, this isn't shaming anybody who waited later. My mom waited until she was around a little after 30 to start having kids. Cool. No shame there. But at the same time, don't shame anybody who decided to start earlier. Because I wouldn't classify somebody who's 25 as young. They're not old. But they're at the younger stage of getting closer to middle age. So that's the way I see it. And some people do like being a younger parent. I am deeply into middle age, and now I could only just imagine being a dad now in my 20s. No friggin' way. I don't know. Who died and made you king? Because I missed that tweet. I'm only going based on the number too. So 25 isn't young. 25 isn't young. It's not young in the same way that 18 is young. The difference between an 18-year-old and a 25 is massive. You're right. I would not recommend an 18-year-old become a parent and get married. Some people by 25 own their own home, have their own car, have a very good paying job, have a wife that they love at that point, and might be ready to start a family. So that's the way I see it. I don't see 25 as a kid. And anybody who sees being 25 as a kid is a part of the problem. If we treat 25-year-olds like kids, they'll act like kids. If you treat a 22, 23-year-old like a kid, they will act like a kid. They're not kids. So I'd agree with this to an extent. I'll admit, while more of the people my age that I meet that are conservative tend to be more mature than those who are not, I will still say there are conservatives my age who are by no means mature. And there are liberals my age that I would say are relatively mature. Their ideas are stupid, but they have a decent handle on their lives at a personal level. So, I don't know. So, honestly, DG, it seems like we're not going to come to a serious agreement in this whatsoever, and we've deviated a lot from a lot of these from a lot of the topics that I've been talking or that I was talking about with NATO dating. But I am going to go back to Twitter real quick, everybody, and double check to see what has been going on with the Epstein stuff, see if there's anything else that might have come out in the time of the show. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. If there's anything any other way that you guys want to support the show, either be by becoming a member or what else could you do? Send a super chat, anything like that. You could also support the show through Venmo or Cash App if you want to help me get more equipment. I want to get a better mic than this one, like a better podcasting mic. That'll just make sound quality better. Invest in ways to make my computer faster and just better. Same with my software, being able to invest in better software. Okay, let's go through the Epstein stuff, see if there's anything else new that would be worth sharing. I'm looking. Seeing if there's anything else here. I'm looking. I can't seem to find anything else new. There's a lot of things that have been primary. Tom Pritzker being a main one being discussed. Bill Clinton, obviously, a lot coming out about him. Trump being essentially exonerated in this. Prince Andrew having a more descriptive instance in which he had sexual relations with a minor in 3 separate geographic locations: London, New York, and Epstein's private island. Looking to see if there's anybody else. Stephen Hawking still being one that a lot of people are very surprised by. Not much more. Well, everybody, I will keep an eye out for more to discuss when it comes to the Epstein files. I have been going for over 2 hours now. I know some of you might have found me originally by when I used to go on things like the porch sessions, and there's another one that I used to do. I'm going to start trying to do those a little bit more again soon as I start to get into a new routine post-college and as I'm applying to law schools. But in the meantime, everybody, thank you so much for continuously tuning into Speechless. Once again, I hope that each and every one of you had a wonderful and blessed Christmas and a happy, happy new year. Prayers to you and your families as we move forward through 2024 together. A lot to look forward to. God bless you. God bless America. And until next time, you've been watching Speechless.